I would like to welcome our guest speaker today. I will let uh, her introduce herself, and what we'll do is after we're going, or as we go, if you have any questions, put them in the chat box, and then I will ask them later, just so we can kind of keep it a little bit more organized. And we'll go from there. All right, Lunsford, sorry, would you? I'll let you take it off. I'll let you introduce yourself and go from there.
Okay, sure. Well, my name is Tamara Lunsford, and I work for Arkansas State Parks. And if you can see the slideshow I've got up, this first slide was a slide that my boss made for me. He was joking with me about me doing this interview. So anyway, that was just a little jest. But currently, right now, my position is assistant superintendent at the Ozark Folk Center. I don't know if any of y'all have been here, but if you haven't, you definitely need to come check us out. We've got a lot of great things to offer in our park. And your professor was kind enough to kind of give me an outline, so that's what I went by. Hopefully, this will, answer some of your questions. But as far as myself, originally I was born in Eureka Springs, and Eureka Springs is really close to Missouri, about 10 miles away. And so I actually grew up across the state line of Missouri, but when I started my working career, I went back and got my first job in Eureka Springs. So that's really kind of where I consider my home. As far as leisures and things I do for fun, hobbies, interests, my family is most important to me. This is my family here. That's my new granddaughter I just got November 17th. So um, that's the most important thing to me. But naturally, like anybody in this business, I like fishing, camping, hiking, gardening, landscaping. Those are probably my top favorite things. My education is a little diverse. I'm a non-traditional student, and so I got my associate degree in science at Northwest Arkansas Community College in Bentonville. And after I started working for Arkansas State Parks, I also went ahead and finished off my degree and got a Bachelor of Science in Recreation and Park Administration there at Arkansas Tech. As far as work history, I've worked in some form of hospitality pretty much since 1997. A lot of hotel management positions before Arkansas State Parks. And then the last 13 years I spent working for Arkansas State Parks. I've worked at several different parks. Um, I started out at Mount Magazine, and from there I went to central office and worked for 9 months and as a trainee, and then I went to Daisy State Park near Hot Springs, and then now to here. And again, my position here at the Folk Center is assistant superintendent. And I have a lot of different job duties, but just to give you some idea, in the absence of the superintendent, I have to step in and assume those roles. I also have to participate in any Arkansas State Park committees that, I've been asked to participate in. Right now, I'm currently on a sign committee where we're working on redoing all the signs in the state parks. I oversee the management of the support side of my park. Our park has a craft village and a music theater. And so those are the cultural artistic parts of the park. And my job as the assistant is to oversee the support side of the park. So the support side of the park is restaurant, lodging, and maintenance and group sales. And so that's primarily who I supervise. Just an example of some of that, obviously I have to be involved with personnel management in those departments, long-term planning and strategy for those departments and their daily operations. Something in addition to just supervising those departments, there's several things. That's why I have the to-do list of everything. But like our asset inventory, we have over 500 items on our inventory. I have to conduct an annual inventory every year, and I'm responsible for replacing items and requesting new ones. And that can be anything from my computer all the way up to a vehicle. So it's a pretty diverse list of items that I need to keep up with. I'm also over the park maintenance program, so that means that I create project requests for things that we need done. And that could be large projects where we ask for money from our operations department and it doesn't necessarily come out of our park budget, like renovating a building or putting on a new roof. And then we also have small in-house projects where we just do maybe Like right now, we're fixing enclosures around our electrical transformers down at our cabins. So a wide range of park maintenance items that I'm involved in. And then there's special projects, like the sign replacement project. Again, it's something that our system is doing park wide, but I'm pretty much overseeing that at our park. And naturally, there's other duties as assigned. This past year with COVID, we weren't able to hire a lot of extra help people, seasonal people, and so no doubt I was making beds and bussing tables too. So whatever it takes to get the job done, that's pretty much what my job duties entail. I was asked kind of what my likes and dislikes are about my job, but I'd like to think of it more as perks and challenges. So things I love about my job is sharing it with the visitors. It's really special to share that with them and show them the park and uh, connect them to our resource. I also love the fact that I'm protecting and preserving natural, cultural, and historic resources for our state of Arkansas. There's never a dull moment. There's always something to do. Again, my work list is quite long, and so I don't ever get caught up, but that's okay. I don't ever get bored either. So um, things I find challenging about my job is effective time management. With so many different projects and things to oversee, it can be difficult to ensure that things with deadlines get done on time. So you do have to be a good time manager in this position. Dealing with personnel issues is probably one of my least favorite things. And, when I say that, I mean bad personnel issues. I love being a supervisor as far as coaching people and giving them the tools they need to do a good job. But sometimes, there are bad personnel issues that have to be dealt with, and those are not enjoyable. Um, and then balancing work and my personal time. This job can be very consuming. And so finding time, downtime, and quality time outside of work can be difficult too sometimes. So that can be a challenge. And public speaking, I'm a very introverted person. Probably a lot of people in your department you go to school with are also introverted. It's kind of it's a natural trait for folks in our industry, but it's not one of my favorite things. It can be very challenging for me. And one of the questions was, what would I do differently? And I guess first of all, I want to say I don't have any regrets. I wouldn't be where I am, personally or professionally, if I hadn't taken this path. But there are definitely things that, maybe if I could go back, I might do differently, but maybe not. One of them would be to minor in hospitality. I just didn't have time. I felt like I was working full time and going to school full time when I was getting my bachelor degree, and so it would have been a little bit more work. And at the time, I just didn't feel like I could take it on. But that would have been something. It would have been nice to have a minor in hospitality. But I'd also like to further my education. That's certainly something I regret. I haven't done that yet. But there are other classes I'd like to take and things I'd like to do that would help me personally or professionally. So again, I don't have a lot of regrets. This is one of my dream jobs, so I'm happy to be here. But if I could have started it earlier, that would have been a plus too, I think. So if you guys are getting an early start, you're on the right path. And what advice would I have for students seeking a similar career? I would say be willing to obtain a lower level position, a seasonal position, entry level position to get your foot in the door. You'd be surprised how fast those positions can lead to higher positions. Also, be willing to go where the jobs are available. My family, again, my home is Eureka Springs, and so my family is still 2.5 hours away. And the first park that I was actually a supervisor at, I had to go, 5 hours away from my family. So sometimes you have to go to geographical areas you may not necessarily want to be at. You're not close to your family, but you do get the opportunities to get closer in time. And so sometimes you just have to go where the job is available. Most important advice I can probably give you is don't forget who the boss is. Our stakeholders, the visitors, people who have a interest in your park or your resource. They are the ones that you really need to listen to. They're the boss. And so I know it seems like a simple thing, but it really is meaningful. And then just, stay positive. I think having a positive attitude is beneficial for anything in life. As far as parting wisdom, I would suggest you have clearly defined goals. I would not be here if not for having goals to get here. Be flexible and willing to do things differently. Uh, sometimes you need to be humbled. Sometimes you need to be emboldened. So it just depends. But knowing when to do the right thing, and when to be flexible, when something may not necessarily be what you think is the way it should be, is important. Being able to step back and really understand other perspectives helps a lot. Be sure to demonstrate an inclusive attitude. People that you'll work with and visitors to your park have very different experiences and backgrounds. And so it's important that you understand that they are all stakeholders, and that you be inclusive to all of them and treat them with respect. Be willing to learn and expand. That is one of my goals for this year. Is I want to continue expanding my knowledge and my abilities. And slow and steady wins the race. I mean, you can see from how I got my education. It took several years. I was working full time and a single parent, and so it does take time sometimes to get where you want to be, and that's okay. There's a lot of value in that.
Have it work. There we go. And so I was wondering if you could just talk about your philosophy, or how the park views that inclusive aspects, because I think that's important now and then moving forward for a lot of the students going into this field as well.
Well, I mean, it's just really just approaching everyone with an open mind and understanding that whether they've been to your resource before or it's their first time, there's something you can probably share with them that they didn't know or connect with before. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely cultural inclusiveness that is left out a lot. Even if you look at our workforce, it doesn't seem to be very inclusive sometimes. So we have a long way to go and a lot of work to do, but that burden is going to be carried by everyone in the industry. We're all going to have to work with that. But also just understanding that, different people have different interests and different backgrounds and different experiences. And something that interests, one person may not interest another person. So just be open to that. Understanding and knowing your resource is really effective in being able to share it and know the facets of what might interest someone and what might interest someone more, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I try to keep in mind, and we all have things we have to do as far as standards we have to keep or deadlines we have to meet, right?
Sure.
Just think about what people are going through in everyday life as well.
Yeah.
Something with the current COVID-19 situation, I've had to really be flexible on. You never know the other person or the people that you're interacting with, what they're having to deal with behind the scenes, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay? And that matters. That matters a lot. People go into a situation with a lot of background, whether that be a history or what they're thinking about or whatnot. So, the other part is, you've been involved with state parks for a long time. Was there a moment that you knew that state parks was going to be their career choice, or was there other options? And is there a reason why you went into the state park system versus other options?
Well, I had again, I love camping and hiking, and I had been to several interpretive programs and camped at state parks in my area. Devil's Den was one of my favorites, so I knew that I wanted to do something like that. And a job opportunity came open at Mount Magazine, and so that's how I got into the state park system. And then once I started working there and working with folks, I figured out kind of the path I wanted to go from there. So that's how it all kind of started for me. But I knew well before that I wanted to do something to protect resources, our natural, cultural, and historic resources. That's definitely a passion of mine.
Have you visited all the state parks?
I have not. It is something that's difficult to do. And I will say that something that a friend of mine who also works for state parks, that we talked about, was not just visiting the state parks, but actually going there and participating in what they have to offer. And so that's why it takes longer for me, because I don't want to just go see a state park so I can say I've been there. I want to, if they have an interpretive program, I want to participate in that. You know, if they can camp, I want to do that. And so I have been fortunate enough with the agency to be able to go to several of the parks as well. You know, and so that's kind of helping knock some of that out. But I have not been to all of them.
It makes something you just said makes me think of, I've been watching a lot of the NFL playoffs, right? And they say, after you catch the ball, you've got to make a football move in order for it to be a catch, right?
Yeah.
You saying that made me think about that. In order to qualify it as a visit, you got to do more than just show up.
Sure, experience it.
I think is I'm relatively new to Arkansas. Is there any specific places that you would recommend, or the highlights that I should make sure I get to?
Well, obviously, I'm biased to the parks I've worked at because I know them really well, and I definitely think they're worth seeing. So, Mount Magazine and Daisy State Park and where I'm at now, the Folk Center, I highly recommend those. But if you haven't been to Pettit Jean State Park, that is our flagship park. It was the first state park, and not to say that it's necessarily my favorite. It's hard to have a favorite, but it offers a little bit of everything. It has lodging, restaurant, camping, hiking trails, history, culture. I mean, there's just a lot to do there. So if you haven't been there, or if you've been there and there's more you need to go do, I'd recommend definitely that one too.
So when I think about a lot of with state parks, a lot of people that visit the state parks are from within the state, right? But if you talk to somebody from maybe a bordering state, what are some of the things that Arkansas State Parks offers that would attract somebody from out of state?
We actually have quite a few out-of-state visitors. Ironically, this year at the Folk Center, we had more in-state visitors. So COVID has kind of gotten people to expand out more within the state. So that's something that has been a result of COVID. But I know, like when I worked at Daisy State Park, it was a 100-site campground, and we got a lot of people from Texas and Louisiana, and so we did have a lot of out-of-state visitors. And our facilities are better. What we offer as far as camping and lodging and just in general, our amenities are better. But two, they're free. A lot of people don't realize that Arkansans passed as a ballot initiative in 1995, the Amendment 75, which gives a lot of money to our agency as well as a few others to do improvements. And so we have been really ramping up our facilities and amenities, and we don't charge for them, for the most part. I mean, there are things we do charge for, but it doesn't charge you anything to come into the park. There may be, things at the park you have to pay to see, but even those are, definitely worth it and somewhat rare. But if you just want to come drive around the park or swim or, hike, there's no charge for that. Some parks charge you at the gate. And so that's a huge thing that I hear a lot from visitors of other states too.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'll just do a quick little reminder to the folks that are joining us. If you have any questions, put the questions in the chat box to the right. The last thing I've got for you is, you talked about continuing that learning, continuing that education. Mm-hmm. So are you involved in any professional associations, and what are they, and how are you involved in all that kind of stuff?
I'm involved in, I was asked by our leadership to participate in the National State Park Leadership Program. And so I did one. There's two different, you take classes, but, two different sessions you go to. And we were able to do one, and then COVID happened, and we didn't get to do the other one. But it's something that the director of state parks is really involved in too. So that's something to kind of maybe look into. Of course, NRPA, and it just really, I don't do anything necessarily with that organization as much as maybe just it helps keep me, kind of connected to other people in this profession. And then NAI, so National Association of Interpretation. I'm a certified tour guide, so That's something I keep current, and so I also get information from that source as well.
Is the leadership through the National Association of State Park Directors, that group?
Yes.
Okay. I think that wraps up all our questions. I want to thank you for joining us today and take time out of your schedule. I sincerely appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for asking me.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you need anything in the future, I'll contact you via email.